So day 5 today, which third day in shoulder pads and helmets. Tomorrow we get to put on full pads. I've been impressed with the guys. Early on, adjusting to the heat was a lot. That was intentional though, to get in the middle of the day right off the bat. We did that for 3 days, and then Saturday night we practiced at night, and then came back today and went in the morning. We'll go again tomorrow before another off day. So I like the physicality of camp right now. I think the guys are working extremely hard. You can definitely feel the depth on our team, which I think is very positive, that we're able to roll a few more guys than we had a year ago. And I think it's really competitive. I think it not only offense versus defense, but I think there's a lot of really good and healthy competition at a lot of position groups, which is good. I think it's bringing out the best in everybody. So all in all, we're off to a good start. 5 practices in. We definitely have a ways to go. One of the things I've been trying to harp upon with these guys, there's a level of consistency that's how you earn the trust that you're capable to go in the game and compete at a high level. And we're pushing for that consistency across the board, whether it's offense, defense, special teams, whether it's a position group, whether it's individual players. That's what we're striving for. That's what we're looking for, regardless of the circumstances, whether it's the heat, whether it's the end of practice. Whether you're going against a frontline starter or maybe a backup, whatever that looks like, that level of consistency and demanding of what's acceptable and what's the standard. And, some guys have responded really well to that. Some guys are still figuring out, and that's okay. That's what training camp's for, is to tighten the screws and to get ourselves to a place where we feel really good about what we're doing. So that's just kind of the first 5 days in a nutshell.
Are most of the freshmen kind of lost, especially they weren't here in the spring, some of them?
I wouldn't go with lost.
Yeah.
I think that when you go a 4-day block to start it, generally by about the 4th day, they kind of run up against it where it's 4 straight days of installation. It's a different style of practice than they're accustomed to. I don't think any of them really got lost. I think some of them kind of ran into the wall a little bit. I think yesterday's, getting them off their legs, yesterday was good for them, and I thought a lot of them responded today. I got to look at the tape to see how that was. But, I think I credit a lot to our coaches in the summer of developing the fundamentals, and then to our veterans who were kind of coaching them when they did their 7-on-7 and team stuff in the summer to get them prepared. And some guys physically can really do it and really do it well. But maybe don't know the call or don't know the signal. So sometimes we got to coach them a little bit more up until the snap of the ball. Some guys know what to do, but ran into it physically and weren't able to do it kind of that 4th day. So hopefully today, when I watch the tape, it'll look a little cleaner for the younger players.
Is there one or two that are just really mature and, boy, they're picking things up fast? Stand out to you?
Let me think. I don't want to speak out of turn here too quick. The majority of the guys, to me, that are playing at a little better level, and not to not answer your question, but to where I see things, like a guy like a B.J. Allen or a guy like a Jaden Blue, who was learning a lot in spring ball, came back now and is a really improved player. Their style of play, their physicality, how fast they're playing. I see that for sure. Definitely from a younger player perspective, I think a few of these young linemen are doing it, whether it's Cam Williams, Kelvin Banks, obviously Cole Hudson, who have been doing it, DJ Campbell. Those guys look really comfortable doing it already early on. Now, they're not perfect by any means, but they look comfortable. They look the part. They definitely look like they belong early on.
How big of a jump is tomorrow for players and for the coaches, evaluation-wise, and just playing football when you put the pads on?
Well, it shouldn't be too big of a jump. We practice really hard. We practice really hard in pads. We pride ourselves on our physicality, our toughness, our effort, and that shouldn't change just because we put full pads on. We don't want to just start tackling and going to the ground every play. We got to really learn how to practice. So it shouldn't be that much of a jump. What naturally can happen to some guys, though, is it's a little bit of the anxiousness of the anxiety. We're in full pads, and next thing you know, they start making the mental errors to go along with the physical side of the game. And so hopefully I'm just putting on pants. My style of play, my pad level, my hand placement, my footwork, my reads, how I cover the guy, how I run the route, that stuff really shouldn't change. But those are things that I'm looking for of, who can't make transitions as we move ourselves through it from helmets to helmets and shoulder pads to full pads to scrimmages and then ultimately to games. It's that natural progression that we have to be able to do. And I think some players can do that naturally. Other guys that don't do it naturally, that's okay. That's my job as a coach, to try to help them and to try to build them, to let them know you don't really have to change. You've practiced really well. We're just putting pants on now. Now, when we go to live tackling, that's a different component, because now it's about who can get people on the ground, who can make people miss, run through arm tackles, who can make contested catches when safeties and linebackers are trying to jar the ball loose. But that's not for tomorrow. We'll work our way towards that later in the week.
This far in, how would you gauge timing with the quarterbacks and the receivers, and just everybody kind of knowing what to do?
Yeah, and I think it's been really good. I think, one, our quarterbacks are playing at a high level. They really are being decisive with the ball. They're throwing it accurately. I think you can tell the guys that are very comfortable in the system, the timing is really good. I think you see with the guys that aren't as comfortable that it's a little bit new for them. You see moments where it looks really crisp and really clean and really pristine timing, and you see moments where it's a little bit off. He's at the route wrong depth, or he's at the wrong spot on the field. Our passing game is predicated on, one, getting where you're supposed to get to versus zone coverage, and then two, when it's man, having the ability to get open, and then doing that in a timely fashion that times up with the quarterback. So, like I said, the guys that really know the system, it looks really good. The guys that are new to them, it's a little hit and miss, and I don't mean to say that negatively. When it's great, it's good, and we're trying to reinforce that positivity and then clean up the areas where we can clean it up.
With the junior, he's someone who took some reps at center and some of the viewing portions. What's your plan with him over the course of this preseason, because he can play, or he started playing games?
Yeah, I think junior one, he's an excellent leader. He understands what it takes. I think he's a guy going into his senior season that wants to have a great team season. He wants it for the team, and he's willing to do what it takes for the team. And so his versatility is important that way, because whether it's guard, whether it's center, when his number's called, that he can go and do those things. And he's a very smart player. He's seen a lot of football. He's played a lot of football. And I think he's really good for our younger guys in a sense of, learning, but also learning how to practice, learning how to compete, doing it when it gets hard. He's got a lot of mental toughness about him, and I think that he's a really positive impact on a lot of our guys.
Coach, housekeeping question and a follow-up. From a health perspective, how are you guys doing?
Yeah, we're doing pretty good. I feel good about where we're at from a health standpoint.
Okay. Last year, you described the quarterback competition as one of the toughest decisions that you had to make in your career. How does this year's battle maybe compare to that?
I'm enjoying it. I'm really enjoying it. I'm enjoying it because both these guys are working their tails off. Both of them are really coachable and trying to do what we're asking them to do. Both of them are making some really nice plays, whether it's quick game, whether it's the audibles, whether it's intermediate throws, whether it's down the field throws. And I think they're both playing with a lot of confidence. And so that part's fun. What makes it hard is when it's herky-jerky. One day it's good, one day it's not great. This feels really good because it's a very positive feel about it. I think they both have a pretty good understanding of what we're doing, and they're not perfect. And like I said, it's day 5. I don't expect them to be perfect. The installation is still ongoing. But they're being coachable, and they're learning from one rep, and they're carrying it to the next time they're getting that opportunity. So, like I said, I'm enjoying it. Coach Millie and I are having a great time working with these guys, and they're playing at a high level, which that's always fun. That you don't feel like you're beating your head against the wall because you can't get through to them. We're getting through to these guys, and they're performing.
Yeah, Steve, with a guy like, Xavier Worthy, who had such a big freshman year, I'm curious, what's his attitude and demeanor been like in year two? And with a guy like that, do you ever have to guard against complacency at all?
Total opposite. This guy works like he's got something to prove every day. For example, we track our catapult numbers, from how much yardage a guy runs, high velocity yardage, explosive movements, all those things, top end speed. We've got, I think, 18 receivers in camp right now. He was at the top of every one of them. So a guy like him could come in and think, oh, I can just get myself ready to go play. He came to work from day one, and he's been working at a high level. He's playing really well. And I think that he and Jordan Whittington really set the tone in that receiver room for what it takes from a work ethic standpoint, and not only physically but mentally. They both sit in the front row. They both take notes every installation. And for them, this installation is, the sixth time around. They've got a really good understanding of our offense, and we're still in day 5 install, which is kind of foundation training. They're still in the front taking notes. They still ask questions, and again, I think they set the tone for what it should look like for the rest of the guys.
You guys finished 5-7 last year. You get
Thanks for the reminder, Sid. Appreciate that.
Yeah, just making sure you can, in case you forgot. You get a first place vote in the coaches poll today. Who's
Which one of you guys did it? I don't.
There are no coaches in there besides you.
Oh, darn it! It wasn't me. I can say that.
You don't have a vote,
No,
do you?
no.
Who do you? What's your reaction to that?
I say this all the time. I never really understand preseason polls. I don't quite get them. And I know you guys do your media picks for the Big 12, and we do it for the coaches poll and then the AP poll. I never quite understand it, because you are the way you play. You are the record that you end up with, and we got a lot of work to do. We're picked to finish 4th in the Big 12, so that should motivate us to get our asses moving and practice really well.
Steve mentioned him a little bit ago, but Jaden, where's he at in his development? And I don't know if rust is the right word, but since he didn't play last year, is there any sign of rust with him?
That's a good question. I felt a little of that in spring ball. I felt a little of a guy who didn't play the 12 to 14 games you would normally play your senior year of high school. Just from a physicality standpoint, from a perseverance kind of mentality. He's a guy who carried the ball a bunch his junior year and was tough-minded, ran hard, and he was kind of feeling his way through spring ball. But that's why I said, coming back to training camp, probably one of the most improved players we have. This guy is running hard. He's running physical. He's blocking physical. He's pushing through some of the bumps and bruises that you get in training camp. Nobody feels good day 5, and you got to persevere. You got to push through. And I've been really proud of him. Just kind of where he was January to May to now where he is come August, in physically but also mentally.
You had some running back stables at Alabama. This is about as deep a running back crew in the country. How are you going to keep those guys happy? Because everybody can play.
Yeah, they really can. The one thing I like about them, it's a very versatile group. Bijan, obviously extremely well-rounded player. Speed, power, inside, outside, route running. Roshan, one thing I'd touch on him. We all know about the leadership, the toughness, mental and physical toughness, the football IQ. He feels faster to me this training camp, which is really cool. Keelan, obviously very elusive, speed, perimeter player. He worked on his game. He's running more physical with more power, more intent. I think Jonathan Brooks, having gotten injured at the end of last season, coming back this spring, looks like a really solid player. And then we talked about Blue. So the cool part is we got a very versatile room, a lot of guys that can do a lot of different things. I think that's, one, it's challenging, but those are good problems to have when you've got people that can do things and they're not one-dimensional players, that you got moving parts and you can move different people to different things, and hopefully reduce some tendencies that way, and force the defense to think. Like I said, I've said this a long time ago, and I believe this, that the more things we can do really well, the harder we are to defend. And when you have versatile players that can take away tendencies, that makes things appear different to the defense, but to us, they're the same over and over and over. And we have a room that's allowing us to do that.
I just want to ask one more question about timing. I mean, your offenses are really phenomenal when guys are running, catching the ball on the run.
Yes.
Right? And that's when your offenses have really exploded, right? Is that is it all the quarterback? Is it the receiver? Is it just everybody being in concert together? What's the key to developing that?
I think it's in concert together. I think one is you have to recognize coverage. And we really push and strive our guys, to get them to try to understand football. Is it man coverage? Is it zone coverage? Is it too deep coverage? Is it, are they doubling a certain receiver? And then that should tell you how to run the route. And then that should also tell the quarterback where the ball should go at what spot and when. And, I do believe in guys catching and running with the football. I don't like, not that I don't do it, but I don't love throwing the ball to stationary targets.
To a spot. Yeah.
Because when you're stationary, you're a lot easier to tackle. I believe when you're moving, I would just say, if Cedric was trying to tackle me and I was running, it'd be a lot harder to tackle me than if I was just sitting in one spot. So we don't stop throwing crossing routes and things even though we get zone coverage. But there is a way to run them based off of that zone coverage or man coverage. And so if you can't recognize that as a player, then it's hard for you to play in this system. You have to have an understanding of those two things. And then when the quarterback and the receivers are all on those same page, that's when it looks very fluid. It looks in unison, and the offensive line and the runners and the receivers and everybody involved, it feels good. And I think we're working towards that. There's moments when it feels that way out there. There's other moments we got a lot of coaching to do, and we got a lot of learning to do. But that's okay. It's day 5. As long as we keep making strides, I'll still sit down here with you guys and be Peter positive.
Rich,
Time for 2 last ones, guys.
your defensive line, what are you seeing from those guys up front? Are you seeing any improvement, specifically even Alfred Collins as well?
Yeah, I think I'm going to rattle off a bunch of names here. There's different guys have had different things to work on for their game. Coburn, I feel him rushing the passer, which was something we wanted him to do. I didn't want him to be a one-dimensional player. He's got to be able to have the ability to rush the passer. 2 guys that have just jumped out at me so far in 5 days have been Byron Murphy and Vernon Broughton. They are exploding off the football. They're playing hard. They're playing with great effort. They're getting around the ball. That's been positive. Guys that have flashed that I would love to see a little more consistency, and I talked to them about this. Sweat, definitely one of those guys. Alfred, another one of those guys. You see it in them, and there's flashes, whether it's a 3-play spurt, a 2-play spurt, a certain team period. Now we need to get that consistency out of them. That's what's going to take them to that next level. And then Morrow kind of working himself back into it now. It's getting him back to that level of player that we know he's capable of being. So those are kind of your frontline guys. The younger players, you see flashes, like Dre Bledsoe, what a pass rusher, but we got to make him a complete player. Zach Swanson, great toughness. Chris Ross, really good quickness. Aaron Bryant, good job of holding the point of attack. But we need the complete player out of all those guys. So everybody's got stuff to work on, but they're definitely impactful at practice. You feel those guys.
So at corner, the competition there, and adding guys like Ryan Watts and Terrence Brooks.
Yeah.
Was length a point of emphasis, looking at adding guys either through high school or through?
For sure. I just believe in 6-foot or taller corners. I just think that you have length at the point of attack at the line of scrimmage to play tighter coverage. You have length when the ball's in the air with the ability to knock balls down. You have size nowadays, all the perimeter screen stuff with the ball getting spit to the perimeter to be physical at the point of attack. And so when you look at recruiting for us, from a Ryan Watts, a Terrence Brooks, Xavion Bryce, a Jalen Gilbo, all pretty physical type players. Austin Jordan, all pretty physical type players, but they also give us versatility. They can slide in and play star. They may even be able to go play safety, play some more man coverage. So again, we're looking for a versatile room back there that can play man coverage, but also can be physical and have length.
Last one, Roger?
Sark, we talk every year, but you're the only level or only sport where you don't get to play against somebody else before it counts. When you put on the tape, is there a side of the ball that you get a better gauge of what you've got than the other based on playing against each other?
I don't think so. By the time, we'll scrimmage, this Saturday, we'll scrimmage next Saturday, we'll do enough things on both sides of the ball that it won't feel so, I've seen that play 10 times in practice, and then guys start playing plays, because you have to have the ability to react in game. I don't get to call the other team's head coach and them send me over their call sheet of what they're going to do, and then we practice it all week. We try to game plan, we try to get ready for it. But ultimately, as players, you have to have the ability to react and still play fast and still play physical. And so our job as coaches is to make sure that we put our players in those positions to do that in scrimmage. I think we'd all love to have a scrimmage or a preseason game to do that. We don't have that luxury, so we've got to create that atmosphere for ourselves in our scrimmage settings.